Okay, everybody, the H1B Guy here, and today, the H1B Guy Live, Stamp It Out 5, a Q&A discussing immigration, aging out, merit, and more. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. It helps me to produce more content like this for you. Since we're doing a live stream today, I wanted to ask you to go ahead and hit that like button. Really helps for the YouTube algorithm and promoting this live stream out to the masses. I also wanted to mention that the H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services. If I can provide you peace of mind by helping you bridge the gap between your employer and your immigration attorney, or if you just have some questions on your situation, please reach out. I'd love to hear how I can help you. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Oscar Cabresis. Oscar and I were first introduced, like many of you and I have been introduced, on Twitter. And I wanted to say that if you have any questions for Oscar or I, we're going to do a Q&A at the end of the interview here for any of you guys out there on YouTube that are watching. So please go ahead and post those into the comments, and we'll get to them at the end of the interview here. So without further ado, Oscar, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me at this. This is awesome.
Well, I'm very excited to have you join us here on the 5th Stamp It Out. You know, as I've already said, I just want to get right into it. And if you can tell me your story, you know, where are you originally from? How did you migrate to the U.S.?
Sure. Well, it's nice to see you, everybody, on this line. I got quite the story, so I'm thankful, number one, that I can share some of the stuff that I lived, best practices, because I did learn throughout all these years here. So here we go. So I came. I was originally born in Venezuela. I came here at the age of 16 back in 2000. Wow. I came through my parents. My parents had an L1, L2 visa because my dad had a company in Venezuela and opened a company here so we could get transferred over and had both operations going. Over the time, as the economical situation down in Venezuela it just deteriorated, it just went wrong. Dad closed out the company. We were here. Dad actually got a job, moved to an H1B visa on that time. So we're all kind of like umbrellaed under his status. I was in school and all the good stuff. And then guess what? I aged out. I turned 21. They had filed their perm, that everything was going on their green card. But then I got a letter saying, well, he's 21. He can't be under that process. So guess what? I had to start from scratch. And then I went from an H4 to actually sort of like an umbrella B1, B2.
So a visitor visa, at least temporarily?
I went from having everything to having nothing, to start from literally back from scratch. And dude, I went in the 6 months. 6 months were coming over. I was trying to get an F1. It got denied. The government said, well, yeah, why? It's like, well, I appealed. I say, hey, I've been here, I'm doing school and whatnot. So I did have to drop out of school all that time. I was just doing nothing.
So you were enrolled as an H4 dependent in university, right, aged out, had to drop out of school, and then work your way through like a B1 visitor visa, at least temporarily, to bridge the gap?
Yep, exactly. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm bridging the gap. I can't stay out of status. First, because I'm coming from a country where there's no law, right? I mean, it was getting worse and worse and worse, and I have no family over there. All my family is here. So what do I do, right? And I had to start from there. Thankfully the appeal was accepted. I reached out to congressman and say, hey, I need your help. I'm studying. I'm majoring in chemistry and whatnot. I want to stay here. So it went through finally, and I got my F1 status. And then I finished my bachelor's. And then as I was finishing my bachelor's, I'm like, what do I do? What are the choices? Do I go get a job? Do I, leave the country, find something else to do? I mean, I had to figure this out. So, thankfully enough, like my colleagues in the lab at school were telling me, well, you can go get a doctorate or go to grad school. It's free. I'm like, what do you mean it's free? Yeah, when science is like chemistry, biology, physics, math, I mean, typically you get a stipend so you can live. So I went and applied for grad school. I was already publishing some papers, and then I went out and went to grad school. I went actually back to the school I had started in South Carolina, and it was 4 years of like, take it easy. You go do your research, you teach, you get paid to live and research and teaching and all that stuff. So then it's kind of gives you a little bit of a calmness. You're now
A
you become an
little sense of
international.
security, at least temporarily, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. So I went ahead and I did that, and now the 4 years are coming. Like, what do you do, right? Like, going back to the same question. Go get a job, go to postdoc, or try to get an academic position. I personally did not want to be in academia. I said I've always wanted to be in the industry. At that point, I kind of had decided that. And in all those years, it's funny. I never got married or had the chance to go get married to an American girl. I could have done that. I didn't. I could have. We would not be having this conversation right now.
Yeah, that's the joke that a lot of people find offensive is go marry an American if you want citizenship, right?
I mean, it's easy, right? Yeah. So, but no, I didn't. I said, no, I'm going to do this on my way. I'm going to merit myself into the United States. I married. I'm going to do it. So guess what? I went and I graduated in 2011. Fortunately, I was doing some partnership with some companies, and I was already kind of going to conferences. Hey, I need a job. I mean, before I graduate, I'm like, I need a job after I'm done, because otherwise I can't. I got to figure it out. Luckily enough, I had a good company that came and said, yeah, we'll hire you. I mean, I said, well, I need a visa to stay here. I need an H1, and they need you to do my green card. Please do it. Like, fine. So they agreed to sponsor me. So I had an OPT. I went and started working, and then they had that thing called the cap gap. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a nice thing, because
where when you're on OPT and your H is selected, those periods of time between the lottery selection and the change of status, right, which is October 1st, is that gap period.
Yeah. So the lawyer they had hired, because that's another thing, they hired a lawyer, and this is when the information that I'm about to give you or trying to illustrate here and exchange with you, the moment you agree to go and work with somebody and they agreed reciprocally to sponsor you, you gotta know that you're surrounding the rights to that lawyer. That lawyer belongs to that company. But I didn't know that. I'm like, okay, that's my lawyer, and I can hold her. No. But
yeah, we've talked about that a good bit on this channel, Oscar, which is the lawyer. And listen, you have to have an immigration attorney. We've covered this multiple times here that I'm not an immigration attorney. I don't provide legal advice. Everything I talk about here on this channel is my opinion, right?
Yeah, same here.
When you have an employer sponsoring you as a petitioner, right, the immigration attorney is on retainer for the employer, not for you, the beneficiary. The information that they provide to you is really based on the agreement with the employer, your employer, the petitioner, and what information they allow to flow down to you. And I think one of the points that you're getting to is that you, as the employee, have the right to have your own outside legal counsel.
And I didn't know that. You come out as an international student. Typically, that's what happens when you're in that situation. You want to stay here. I wanted to stay here. Well, I needed to stay here because my family, my direct family, is here. I don't have any family outside. I don't have family back in Venezuela anymore. They're gone. I mean, everybody's been gone. So I had nowhere to go back and say, well, let me go back and figure. No. And plus the situation, the political situation, economic, I had nothing. I mean, what am I going to do there? Starve or whatever?
Yeah, there's a song that was very popular when I was in college. Is you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, right? And
exactly.
So, oh man, where is home? Yeah, I guess that kind of leads into when you did age out, right? What was that period of time like for you in your life?
Dude, I mean, that sucked. It sucked because you just don't know now. Like all of a sudden, like now I have to break my parents' savings because now I got to pay a premium. I mean, thankfully, I stayed in school for like a year and a half. I mean, I was already up to my junior year, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak, and I could, finish. And then I came home. I came down. It was in South Florida, in Miami. I was living with my parents, and I didn't have to pay for a board or anything, but I had to pay the premium of tuition. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it was tough, but we did it. I mean, there was no other choice. So yeah, it was a really rough period, man, because you just don't know. You don't have an answer. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have an answer what I'm going to do. I didn't have an answer when am I going to get to school. What if I have to leave? Where do I go? I don't know anybody outside of the country, especially for
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's young, that's going to grown up here, because my parents brought me here. Came with my sisters and everybody, and we're here. What do? You don't know anything outside.
Well, and I
So
think the thing too, as a teenager, you came here, and it wasn't your choice.
no, no,
No matter how you spent it, your parents made that decision for you, and you had no choice to stay with grandparents or an aunt or uncle at that point in your life. It wasn't an
right. I
option
didn't
for
I
you.
didn't have the conscience to tell my parents, hey, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to England.
Yeah,
Sometimes I retroactively look at this and I say, I should have told my parents when I was in eighth grade, you know what? We should come to America right now.
yeah,
How do you know that when you're
you're right,
14, 13? But I
right.
used to come here. I was like going to summer camps and all that
Which
stuff.
kind of
And
leads me to another question, and that's if you could go back and give advice to your 21-year-old self going through that aging out period, what would that be?
dude, I'm thinking about it. It's a tough. I would have probably done what I did, which is stick to a major and stick to did research, because I haven't finished the story where I'm going with it, but
Hmm.
I did research back then that when you have a high degree here in the U.S., that if you wanted to stay on your own, you have to go through the process. There's a higher chance for you to stay, or there are mechanisms for you to stay here. I had the chance to get married. Not that I was with somebody, but it was something I had contemplated. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I need to go meet somebody and say, hey, I'll pay you $10,000 to get married with me. And that time was easy.
Hmm.
Not now. Now, yeah, more scrutiny, but
Hmm.
I did contemplate that because I have a necessity. But at the end of the day, thank God it just did not happen. I
Hmm.
stuck to my guns, and I'm like, oh, I gotta prevail through this. I gotta do it like everybody does. And not just do the things that are right. So that I did some investigations, PhDs and stuff like that. I'm like, not that I wanted to get a PhD because I had other dreams and all stuff, but I did. I mean, I'm enjoying what I have today, what I'm doing. I've learned so much and given me so many skills. So when I was at that job, that I got my H1B, I got my first H1B, and I was like, perfect. Well, another 3 years of cushion. Being Venezuelan, not having an embassy in Venezuela, and I needed to do some international travel after what had been 15 years, no, even more, like maybe 12 years or something like that,
What
that I
what year
hadn't left the country to go somewhere else.
what year did you first get your H? Do you remember?
It was 2011, right when I graduated.
2011.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a good year because it was like there were plenty of visas that
Hmm.
like there were. I think that was the year of major cap gap. As I learned, like there were so many H1Bs available. Like employers did not want to sponsor.
For the
For the
advanced degree category too.
in the advanced. So I had my advanced degree, and I was like, perfect. It just worked out beautifully. So I went up to Toronto because that's that you could do consular processing
Hmm.
in Toronto or Mexico, like Canada or Mexico. I went to Canada, safer. I'm not gonna go to Mexico. I went up there. Yeah, it worked out nicely. But I do have a story around it. So check this out. I went and I go to the embassy, and I'm going with my papers ready. I have my backpack, my laptop. I'm like, whatever these guys need. And I hadn't been in an embassy forever. Forgot that you cannot bring anything. And it's like 10 minutes till my appointment. And I'm outside of the embassy. I'm like, what do I do? Like, I can't go in. I'm not kidding, man. I ran. There was a garage in front of the U.S. Embassy in Toronto. and there was this box, this recycling box. I just threw my computers, I threw everything that was electronic there. I'm like, if this is gone, this is gone. Whatever. I can't do anything about it. But I gotta get my visa so I can go back to work. Dude, I laid it out. I went, I did the interview. Thankfully, I had a good officer. She was super nice. Yeah, this looks good. This checks out. You're good to go. Ran out, and my bag was still there. It was magical. Magical. It was like in the middle of downtown Toronto. You leave all your belongings outside. It was anyhow. So that was the experience. That was good. And then the years passed. 3 years. I actually now the third year I had decided to get married. And I decided to. I met a girl in Europe, in Hungary, and we started going out the distance. I started traveling back and forth a lot. By the way, that's when you travel outside of the country, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because you can grab those days, and at the end of your H1B, like if your days are running out, you can add those days that you were not, and you can
recapture that time.
That was pretty. I mean, I'm kind of glad I did that because it did help me later. So anyhow, I traveled back and forth, and I came back, and I got married abroad, and I said, well, let's go, come with me. I'm still working on my green card, so you can come and benefit. Blah blah blah. So guess what? So she comes with me after she comes right to the U.S. right at the end of my visa, my first H1B, and then. Of course, during the first 3 years, I clearly told my employer, I need you to start filing for my green card right now. I need you to start working on a perm and all this stuff because this thing takes time. It does take time. I don't know if they did it. They told me yes, of course. All the lawyers will tell you, yeah, blah, blah, blah. We're doing it. We're working. We're going to certify. We need to get the prevailing wage. And also, I don't know if it happened. I want to say it didn't because comes close to that first 3 years. I'm like, so where are we? Well, we're still asking for a prevailing wage. What the hell are you talking about? I'm like, I'm more informed than you are, or like, and the employer's not telling you anything. They're just telling you.
My experience with that is typically when there is a delay at the prevailing wage phase, there's been an unfavorable wage determination sent back to your employer that says, we've determined the wage should be X. You're paying him Y. Are you willing to meet wage X at the time of adjustment of status? Yeah. And what that does is it freaks employers out because they think they need to be paying you that wage like right then. But really it's adjustment of status whenever that may be, which could be, a few years down the road or like some 10 to 15.
Right. And I honestly don't know. I mean, I think that could have been. But I had like no answers, nothing. And I'm like, well, here we go. So what do I do, right? Like, well, I got to extend. But at the same time, within the company, I had the opportunity to move up the ladder and say, well, we're going to make you a regional manager. We're going to make you, go work in the field more than you're doing, more specialized, more sales, more commercial. That's kind of where. And I said, sure, I'm going to do it. But with that, I didn't know I was pressing the reset button on everything that I had started. I didn't know that. And I said, and in my mind, it was like, I'm actually doing me a favor because I'm going to have something more specialized than anybody else that is a very, very truly unique niche job. Then they're not going to be able to find any candidates for because I'm able to fulfill that. And go ahead and do that. You see, I went from like not understanding anything to start really, really researching this. And I did it. I said, okay, I took the job. I just didn't know I was doing. I'm pressing my own reset button. So I extended. I went and applied for an extension. They changed my role. All good. And the change of stat, the extension came through wonderful. I mean, that worked out perfectly. Now, like I said before, I had married this girl. I had to come bring it over. So she came. We flew this time to Ottawa because Toronto didn't have appointments. And I said, well, this will be cake. I did it last time. It was awesome. It was quick, 2 or 3 days, nice days in Canada. You wait for your passport back, see you home. No. So I went out there. Ottawa was minus 25 Celsius. It was brutal. And well, I go and do the interview again, and I'm like, yeah, man, I'm like going to the officer, hey, good to see you again. Like, This was a different officer, of course, but what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. I'm a scientist. I do research. And I don't know what I triggered on the officer. And he looked at me and it's like, nah, this is not good. I'm like, what are you talking? This is not good. This is an extension of what I'm doing. I'm doing the same thing. I just need to go back. No, it's not good. I need to send it to Washington for review. I get this blue sheet of death. It's like a blue
221G, right? I mean, that's the blue or green. I've seen it pink too.
Pink, yeah. I had
yellow.
I had asked the lawyer before, hey, this is never gonna happen, right? I'm kind of, no, don't freak out. This is stuff that they put in the internet. It just happens when they're really shady companies. I'm like, yeah, it shouldn't happen to me. I'm working for a legit, $5-7 million company where we're building a business and this is happening. So yeah, it happened. And the officer tells me, well, I told him, so what are my options or what do I need to do? Well, this has got to go to Washington. I have to wait for a reply. This can go from 2 weeks to 4 weeks to 3 months to 6 months. And I'm like, you're telling me I have to stay in Canada for 6 months. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like, well, you can go back to Venezuela. I'm like, where's this guy living? So guess what? I got stuck in Canada for a month. It was literally a month until they called me back and say, yeah, you're good to go. Come and process. And during that month, thankfully, my employer, they paid for the hotel and everything, but I couldn't do anything. Again, I was just stuck. Now I was stuck out of the country. I'm a foreigner. What am I going to do here? At least it was like a nice little vacation going around the snow. And
but minus 25 isn't what I'd call nice for people that live south of the Mason-Dixon line here in the United States. We're just not used to those temperatures.
Oh, it was brutal. I remember driving down to Toronto. Anyhow, and then coming back, I just decided to drive because in that time I was living in New Jersey. It was right by New York City. So I said, it's just a 6-hour drive home. And that's what we did. Going to airports, I'm trying to avoid all of that. And that was the experience. I'm coming back. Well, now second H1B, now married, live, blah, blah, blah. Past, you got 3 more years. What's happening with my green card? Like I should have already a perm approved because if I have a perm approved, I can just wait and this will trickle. No, man. So prevailing wages again, stuck in, I don't know, like took it a year and a half. And then the lawyer says, okay, we got them. Now we're going to file for, I forgot what the step after the prevailing wages is.
There's the perm labor where they'll file that. They've gone through the recruitment process, right?
Yeah, so they're going through the recruitment, correct. They says, yeah, we're going through the recruitment process and we're going through it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, awesome. I'm ecstatic. So have you found anybody? No, nobody has applied. I went, where have you posted the job? I'm like, well, we've posted it in dark sites. I'm like, what dark sites? Oh, we cannot tell you. I'm like, so to me, it's like, are you doing it or you're not? Typically,
right.
You post it in the company's website, which they never did.
You're out there Googling your job title, trying to find it, right? Like, where is it?
And then I realized, I said, no, we got an audit. We got triggered for an audit. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you got triggered. Yeah, because, you're doing such a specialized job and we still have to post in some other counties in New Jersey and it's not right. And I'm like, all this time is just passing by, passing. And I'm like, I've got to do something because this is going to drag. This is going to drag for years. So I looked and I said, well, I got to, I had that time, my ex-wife, I called my parents. I'm like, what do I do? So I started calling, well, maybe I got to go get another job and maybe change to an O visa. Maybe that will probably keep me going. And so I actually called a few lawyers and then told me, hey, man, send us your CV because you have a PhD in chemistry. You're sort of published because like I said, I don't work in academia or anything completely published. Let's take a look at your CV. And they say, man, you have a shot at the NIW here.
And NIW is the National Interest Waiver, for those of you who don't know, which is probably, I'd say, somewhere between an EB1 and EB2 category, right? If I'm going to label it, which really isn't fair. But what it does allow is you to bypass prevailing wage determinations. And so it really expedites the process when you're going through sort of the perm labor. So go ahead, Oscar.
Exactly. So I checked with a few lawyers and they were really graciously enough. And I said, yeah, sure. We'll charge you this much. It was like a bunch of money. I'm like, I said, screw it, I'm gonna do it. You know what? Like I gotta take a chance. I gotta take a stand here because this is it. And I did it. They asked me for letters of reference from professors, my publications, people that don't know me well, but they know me. I mean, it was really well. It made sense. It was like, this is my life. Like, hey, I'm a scientist. I'm contributing to the economy. I'm, doing all this. So I put it through, and in 6 months, my A140 was approved. I was like, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
And in that time, all that 6 months, my H1B had already, it was between almost expired and about to be expired. It was kind of like that.
Mhm.
And I quit jobs. I quit the company and said, screw it. Like, this is already through, because what that process that I had done entitled me to an EAD card.
Right. The EAD with advanced parole. And that's
and I say,
something I've talked about a good bit on this channel, right? Is that provides you freedom. And that freedom is freedom of choice, right? Freedom for you to choose who you work for, how much you're paid, and the ability to travel without restriction.
Exactly. Not that I needed to travel abroad. I mean, when I changed the employer, I was just like, well, yeah, I may have to go to like China or even go to India, or we have to go seminars. That's fine. I said, well, screw it. If I need to travel, I will, but not that I want it. But anyhow, I got it, and that kind of gave me the get out of jail, the get out of jail card. And I was like, I'm on. I left the company and I said, I'm sorry, you guys effed up my green card process. I have no knowledge. I know it's your process, but I have a life and my priorities, and I just left. And I don't know what that ended up happening. I don't know if they pulled back. I have no idea. So I just left it as is. I got a job with a different company. And of course, with all of this, they had their own immigration lawyers to say, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I have an EAD. I have an NIW pending. And I don't know. So they said, well, let's recapture, like I said before in our conversation, all those days that I had traveled on those 6 years with H1, I recaptured, I want to say, a year and change of
Right. So that means that you spent 53, 54 weeks out of the country in those 3 years of being under
6 years.
Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I did. I mean, and so I was able to recapture so many days that it was great, because that kind of percolated into the extension. They changed the H1B from one employer to the other, because they say I had to do it despite I had an EAD. And then the lawyer for this other company says, well, I don't know if your NIW is going to get approved. And all this, when I'm like, dude, I got to give it a shot, because, I have nothing else. And I actually emailed him. I'm like, boom, I'm like, thank God.
Here it is. Yeah.
So that freed me up. And of course, but what was interesting enough is that the Trump administration had already put the interview process on board. And
that's the biometrics and everything involved.
But now they had an interview with you, like almost like what they do with marriage cases.
Yeah.
They wanted to have interviews for employers. So I was kind of like the first way. So that kind of delayed things. Is that, as what I had learned through forums and people, is that the moment that the I-140 was approved, you get the 485 is approved immediately. Like, they waived the interview. In that time, you would get everything on the mail in like 2-3 weeks. But no, this kind of like pushed it down. So I did that interview, and it was, sorry guys, I hate cussing, but this is bullshit. It was absolutely BS, because the officer asked more questions to my ex-wife today, because I got divorced. But they asked her everything about her marriage, and the guy asked me, so what do you do? I'm like, I'm a scientist. I do research. Okay, what kind of research you do? I'm in chemistry. Okay, that's all I wanted to know from you. I'm like, all of this for 2-3 questions. This is wrong. I mean, I guess the guy was an expert in something else, but that's fine. Like, so what's the point of doing these interviews when they know that you are bringing to the economy, and you're not really, it's not a marriage case, it's a job case.
Yeah, I've talked about that a good bit, which is, that's at the discretion of the bureaucrat, which is dangerous, because ultimately it's one person's opinion based on the evidence of your case. Right. And so that's what's scary about, these interviews and the process of those requirements and everything that goes into that, is that it's at the bureaucrat, the consular, or the VO, however you want to describe it, that officer's discretion.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that was really nice. There was nothing wrong, but, it just makes you think, like, this is people, like the people are listening to this and they watch, what's the point of these interviews if, what are they going to ask you? Like, what do you do? Like, do they care? Oh, they want to know if you're working it. You can bring a pay stub. I brought them like, hey, here's a pay stub.
Yeah.
Like, I'm working.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's my W-2 the last 5 years. Want to see
exactly.
them?
I'm like,
Here you go. I've made 5 times what you've made. You want to see that? Yeah.
exactly. I'm like, so anyhow, that worked out, after that. And, I moved back here to Florida. Now I have like sort of a calmer life. But again, and this is kind of where I want to conclude the story. It really doesn't end up after you get a green card, guys. I think, I think it ends. I don't know if it ends because even you naturalize and still an immigrant here. But I mean, I feel like now I have to be more careful because, you have a green card and you have to protect your record. You have to protect who you are. You have to protect, try to avoid encounters with law enforcement, stupid stuff that, it's not going to hurt you in the end, but it's just more, it's more crystal. It's more like a crystal.
Yeah, I'd almost say you have security, but it's almost like you're an egg, right?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, bump into something and spills out the contents,
Exactly.
No,
So
I think too, though, Oscar, to your point, it goes back to your journey isn't over because your personal story and what we're telling here, there's some folks in the chat, and we'll get to that kind of at the end of the Q&A here, but they're going to benefit from your experience. And I see that right now based on some of the questions that we're going to get to that are in the chat for you. And
sure.
that is what is really, I think, the most important thing. And one of the things that I've talked about on this platform is we have to continue to talk. We have to talk about the issues. We have to try to create solutions that can help solve them and talk about them further. I don't know if you saw yet earlier today, but there's a reporter that I follow for CBS News, Camilo Montoyo Galvez, and he broke some news on DACA. And I've been really big on DACA and DACA kind of being one and the same. And there's a lot of people that don't agree with that opinion. But Camilo says, quote, on Twitter that the Trump administration told a federal court late last night it agrees DHS head Chad Wolf's restrictions on DACA should be set aside. That would, Department of Justice agrees, return DACA to its 2012 form, allowing initial applications and 2-year protections, work permits. Wolf had enacted a 1-year period. Continuing on, it says, in sum, DACA remains closed to initial applicants, though that could soon change via an order from Judge Cabrices. Also, these lawsuits, particularly the one overseen by Judge Hanson, could complicate President-elect Biden's pledge to fully restore DACA.
Listen, I think this is really good. I mean, I'm telling you because living in South Florida, I mean, having grown up through the regular system, and I've seen a lot of kids that went to school with my sisters. My kids' sisters grew up here. Okay, they're full citizens. I mean, we even speak in English. We hardly speak in Spanish. That's and I see their classmates, and some of them, their parents just left Colombia or left Brazil, left whatever, just to come here to try to get a life. Now that they cannot get an H1B, they couldn't. There's some people that they just don't fit that, right? And these kids are DACA. Today, that's all they have. I mean, and so what are these kids going to do? They're going to get deported out there to a country that they just don't know anything about. I mean, it's so.
And I think it goes back to how many 18 to 20-year-olds really know what they want to do with their career, right? I mean, I know, yeah, you want to get a degree and figure it out, but like, I know, I mean, I changed majors like 3 times, I think. So again, it goes back to really not knowing, what's next. But yeah, I mean, I think this is good news. I think, as I've talked about, one thing that President-elect Biden, I think, really will focus on is the DACA component. There's been a lot of news coverage and a lot of the 11 million undocumented. I mean, I guess we'll see how that plays out and what that looks like over time. But if anything, I mean, at least you're seeing some extension of time, not a lessening of it. When you talk about lessening of time of extensions, you're talking about more revenue generated for USCIS, DHS, because of the fees involved.
They wanted to kick the fees up for citizenship like tremendously, and I mean, I think it got refuted, correct? Like it got
Yeah, fee-based model. It was declined, I believe I saw, but they've raised other fees. I mean,
it's nuts. I mean,
premium processing for various filings now was over $2,000. That's just, it's crazy. And then yet, back in June, July, there was in August reportings of these deficits. So it really kind of creates a lot of questions. I know you briefly mentioned this, but I just wanted to go back and cover it. So you started out at University of South Carolina in Columbia, aged out. Then once you got your F1, you graduated from Florida International.
Correct. Yeah, I moved back. I moved back from Miami. Yeah.
And then you went back to USC to do your PhD. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's like back and forth, and then moved to Maryland, worked in Maryland, in Washington D.C. area. Yeah. That's where I got my first H1B, and then the second I moved to the New York City, New Jersey. I lived in New Jersey. I mean, it was nice to be in Manhattan every day because you could cross a bridge in and out. I mean, it was like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on the. But yeah, I mean, after that, I was just like, I was burnt out of being up there and wanted to come back. And this was it. So
a little different South Florida than the New York, New Jersey area. That's for sure.
It's been cold today. It's been like 50 degrees here.
Yeah, it's cold here. Cold here in Atlanta is low 40s, and when you have the heat running in the house, it's hot in the house but cold outside. So just can't seem to find the right temp. But I wanted to ask for those that are out there watching right now, if you can like this video, it definitely helps with the YouTube algorithm and promoting the live stream. We have several more questions that we're going to get to here. I also know a lot of you have posted questions already in the comments section for the Q&A. We'll get to that at the end of my questions here for Oscar. But if you can post those in the chat, we've already got a pretty good list of those. But if you have any others, go ahead and post those in the chat now. So Oscar, you've been very vocal on Twitter, really during the election. If I go back and look at your timeline,
there's a lot of heat.
August, September, October. What was motivating you to speak out?
Well, I mean, there's some factors in there. Number one, I'm Venezuelan, right? I was born Venezuelan. I don't consider myself anymore like, I'm a passionate Venezuelan. No, but I do feel for people that came from there are still trying to come over, and still people that are there. So I was really vocal. Yeah, I'm not gonna hide it. A very Republican mindset. That's what I wanted. Not really the whole Biden thing, but that's just my opinion. Again, not because of it. I think the major thing that I disagree with the whole Trump administration is their approach to immigration is completely wrong.
Right.
Economy-wise, at least for me, for the business I am, it's been great. It's been phenomenal. For the lifestyle that we live here in Florida, it's fine. But that's where I agree. The disagreement is completely on immigration. I think it's completely wrong. And the way they're separating families, I'm completely against that. I mean, it's just, I want to make that clear. So that's why I was very vocal, because I was just like, this cannot be, from one end and the other. And then you got the people rioting and stuff. I understand the causes. I support those causes, but there's no reason to riot. It just reminds me of Venezuela when I was there, or the time post there, and seeing some of my friends who fled that. They went and protested and just got shot because they were protesting. And then I've been really vocal about it. I'm like, well, Twitter is a good platform to get the stuff out there. I have friends who I've disagreed with. Friends are good of mine. My kid sister's a big Biden supporter. We've disagreed, but at the end of the day, we love each other. We understand we have differences in the ways that we think, but certainly that's kind of my motivation. I'm like, some people deserve some justice. Like, at least I see it from my angle. I may be completely wrong to others. It's totally fine. But I see it my way, and at the end of the day, we're all one. We're people, right? We care about each other, and where you have those disagreements, you find some common things, and you try to bond there. But
and Twitter's a great platform for that. And I think what ends up happening is that when you do express your voice, people that share commonalities with that opinion, it tend to find you, but then the other side to that is the ones that disagree tend to find you too. So,
Yeah, you
you know,
can't
that
please everybody.
no,
You can't. But it's unfortunate. I really, like I said, to me, I really wish that these things get a little bit moderated, or
yeah,
have a little bit more of respect for each other. Because I think, unfortunately, the internet opens up to that, and just people say, "Well, you think this? You're
yeah,
crazy. You're stupid." I'm like, well, dude, it's just I'm just expressing an opinion. I may be completely wrong. Like a friend of mine from Italy who's big pro Biden, he opened me my eyes a little bit. Might think about it, right? Like this whole thing of socialism, and again, this is
mhm,
probably a different topic, but
mhm,
see it differently. I'm from Europe. We see it differently. So, some things make me understand more. I'm trying to understand more what people are saying these things, and me, instead of me just being with blinders and just saying, this is my opinion. I don't care what you say. I
mhm,
like to listen to others despite I may not agree, or they don't agree with me. It doesn't matter. What's important is always dialogue. I think
mhm.
that's very important. So
You,
yeah, man,
you,
Twitter. That's how I met you too. So
that's
come
right.
on.
That's exactly right. And I think you and I share the commonality that, for me over the last 5 months, I mean, I've met hundreds of people that I've now befriended on Twitter, and you're one of them. I mean, you
Yeah.
and I talked a few weeks ago, and we talked for an hour, and it felt like 5 minutes. And I think that's because you find folks that um, you tend to are be attracted to, if you will, because of the commonalities there, the commonality in ideals, or the commonality in forward thinking, right? And thinking about looking forward versus, hey, this has happened, and dwelling on that. Just we can't change what's happened in the past with immigration, but we can talk
No.
about what the future looks like, which kind of leads me into now that we're a month removed from the election. You've had a chance to, really digest these results. Do you have any predictions for employment-based immigration as a whole for the U.S. in the next 4 years?
Well, I mean, from what I'm hearing, the H1B got blocked. The rule is gonna get
Hmm.
blocked or got blocked. So
Yep.
that's a good thing, because
Hmm.
I think that is not gonna, like, for example, I'm gonna have eventually at some point in my life, I want to have my business, and if I can help somebody from abroad to come and work with me and facilitate that, man, it'll be an honor, because I don't want people to go through what I went to. That's number
Hmm.
one, but I hope that it'll be better. I just don't think some things are gonna change much. I think that the stuff in priority. I've talked to Christine about it. I think I
Yeah.
talked to you. I talked to some of our friends. I think, unfortunately, the country cap is gonna still be there. There's
Yeah.
always gonna be the one or two that are gonna say, no, we need to block it, and that's it. Just go back in the line until opens up. But
Hmm.
again, I think it's a matter of priority, and I think the biggest priority that the country has in terms of immigration right now is fixing the illegal and fixing DACA.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, us who've done it the right way, we're like down in the priority list. But I think I do feel, for example, for the program, having those caps, they're probably going to be a little bit more linear, which is the
Yeah.
way it should have been always done, and that's the way it should stay, and not with so many restrictions where you're forcing an employer to pay you 120,000. Well, why should you, an entry level employee, make the same as the director of whatever? I mean,
Right.
come
That's
on,
out of
man.
whack. Yeah. I mean, I think that's, as you said, the news evidently came down late Monday, but it was reported yesterday. Judge Jeffrey White, federal district court judge in San Francisco, ruled favorably, again, in the U.S. Chamber of Commerce versus Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice case. Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about that, right, the country cap, quote on country caps for employment based preferences, that's something I've been very vocal about that I think is just wrong. It's not right. It needs to be changed, and it needs to be addressed. And I'm
My
hopeful.
Indian friends, I'm a big S386 supporter.
Yeah.
That needs to happen.
I,
Anybody who's listening to me, I'm game. That needs to
yeah.
happen. It's just
And I've
now.
spoke out in favorably of it too, but unfortunately, it's just looking more and more like, with everything that's being tied up, right? There's going to be confirmations that have to take place in the Senate They're still dealing with this stimulus. I don't think it's going to be called back to the floor. And as I've talked about a little bit on my video yesterday, I think it's going to be May or June before we see any sort of legislation be put on the House floor or the Senate floor. But you're right, though. It feels like employment-based preferences are taking a bit of a back seat to the family-based and the undocumented. But I will tell you that I've talked to some people here recently that said activity is happening, and that they're hearing that the transition plan is to rescind a lot of the executive actions that were put in place as it relates to the H1Bs and employment-based preferences. So I guess time will tell on that, right? It just is. It's just something that we'll just have to take the wait and see approach on. I don't know if you saw this yesterday or not, but the UK announced that today was the first day they'd be accepting applications for their point-based immigration system.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I've talked about this a little bit. What are your thoughts on a merit-based system, and could it work here in the U.S.?
Definitely could work. Definitely. I mean, you just have to structure it right. You have to make it probably a little bit tighter than Canada or other smaller countries.
Yeah, Australia and New Zealand, I think.
Yeah, those are smaller countries, so there's more here. We have people for everything, right? But I think certainly that would be amazing. Now, was that something that this administration was contemplating? I'm pretty sure they were. I'm not. That's why I do feel that somebody inside was like, "Well, let's figure this out." I think time ran out. It was not a priority.
It came out, the Cotton Bill was 2017, right? It's unfortunate that in the 4 years, that was something that he ran on in 2016 and just didn't get it done. And instead, something like a merit-based system wasn't going to be able to be done through executive action. It required an act of Congress, and they just didn't have the bipartisan support. And unfortunately, I think a lot of that goes back to the lobbyist dollars behind blocking something like that, right? And,
but that would work. I mean, in an ideal world, I mean, I thought about this, right? How to design this? I'm like, you do point system, but it's also on awards who the person is, okay? Because I think any person should have the right to come here on their merits and on their skills and whatnot. And it's just a matter of organizing it into a fashion. I'm like, you have, let's say you have a master's in computer science and you're a great programmer, you could help this industry. Well, your timeline will be 2 years because we have a certain amount of things. Or, maybe you have this interest here, maybe your timeline will be a little bit less. It should be, I'm using my scientific things, you sort of like a variable of expertise versus time. Because the more expertise that you've got and then you can work through the system, the sooner you should get to the country because the country needs you. That should be the equation that, should work here. But, who in Washington is going to do this? I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, well, you make an interesting point. Well, talking about merit, but you didn't use the term, but I am, which is how do you evaluate character?
Character, right? It's subjective, right? It's subjective. I mean, I think unfortunately the country is based on a system where I think cultural integration is still happening. It's not. There's so many things that are so rooted to the system that how do you change that? How do you? Unfortunately, I have to bring this out. How do you bring somebody who has a name from the Middle East that is not a common name and is not in some database? Like, how do you know that person with that same name is a really good person? And it's how do you know that? And unfortunately, this is so rooted in our system. I don't see it changing. I don't see it changing this year. I don't even know. Maybe beyond my lifetime. But certainly, how do you evaluate character based on not on paper, but on interviews, on behavior, on temper? Look how they do this temporary green cards for people that get married.
Yeah.
They give you 2 years and they're telling you, well, in 2 years, you gotta stay married. I mean, you gotta be bona fide. You gotta show that to the government. I think that's a starting point for measuring character. But how do you do it? Do you do something like that? Do you try to make something like, we'll give you a temporary green card just to show you're a really good person. You're not a problem to the U.S. A public charge, call it like the way they want to call it today. I don't know. I mean, could it be? Maybe. They have to try pilot programs to do that. But again, and you have to have somebody creative and somebody with a good staff around it and people in the
Yeah.
government supporting that, because otherwise
Well,
it just doesn't go anywhere.
I think that's what concerns me with, the president-elect's administration and kind of what I'm foreseeing, which is a lot of the same as I talked about. It doesn't seem like there's any desire to have creativity for reform that would be mutually beneficial. And to me, I always come back to the merit-based point system is that answer. But the complexity of getting to that point, right? And then the lobbyists and the associations that would do everything in their power to try to prevent a system like that, because it would remove, it's going to run their pockets. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the who moved my cheese
Who knows,
debate.
man? I mean, it's a tri-storming process. That's my opinion. I mean, at least that's what we do, and the type of job that I do. We try things and measure some KPIs. But how do you make that in a public environment? It's difficult, but who knows? I really hope that something is gonna get done for the better of for the good of everybody. I can tell you, even for people that have green cards and they want to get married to somebody that's foreign, they have their spouses or their future spouses outside of the country, even here, that they don't have that. That is another broken system. I don't know if you knew this, but did you know, like, for example, as an American citizen, you get married to somebody with or without status, and they get granted immediate, you go through a 485, you get job permit, you get it in about 6 months or something. You normalize that. But if you are a green card, you want to get married to that same set. No, it doesn't work that way. It takes about 2 years. I mean, tell me that's.
I had a good friend of mine that married a girl from Colombia, and the process to get her here through the K visa it took them forever. They had been married a while too, and it was thousands of dollars and quite the lengthy process. And that's a completely another discussion. We don't really get into family-based preferences here on this channel, but the commonality there, Oscar, is the money.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it's like that. It's like the system is broken everywhere. Unfortunately, it is broken. Despite they want to call it that there's a structure. Yeah, there's a structure, but it's broken. It has places all over. So anyhow, like you said,
you found me on Twitter, but were originally introduced through the H1B Guy Live Stamp It Out Q&A 4 with the brilliant mind of Christine Mikolajczuk. What is it that drew you to me and the H1B Guy platform?
So, well, first of all, hi Christine. She's probably watching or not, but
I think she is. If I know her, she's either watching now or at some point. So.
Yeah, no, we speak. We actually, after I read her article in Medium, I actually reached out to her. I'm like, dude, we gotta talk. We gotta talk because you have the same story with me. I mean, unfortunately, yours, turned out differently, but we have the same story here. And then I saw you guys speaking, and I'm like, man, you are a guy. I mean, you know what you're talking about, and you have this genuine aspect of trying to help others, and it aligns with what I want to do. Because I'm telling you, after all of these things that I have done, I kind of retrospectively go look and say, man, I should have become an immigration expert, attorney, or something like that, where I can help people do this, because it is complicated. And it drew me. It was like, this is great. Now I have somebody I can speak to, regardless, because this is an important topic to bring up to the web with as much audience as possible, because merit-based immigration is broken in the U.S. As much as the illegal immigration trying to normalize people is. I mean, it is just bad in both ends. So the idea you have a platform where you bring stuff up and you educate around the H1B process for people that are in school here and want to stay here, or people are abroad and they need to come here through that. There's an education process that people need to go through, because it's not that easy. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get an H1B, go to the States and just just stay there forever. No, I mean, it's what I was telling Christine, and I tell the audience, it's like, you got to come with a mindset of Do I come here to work and leave, or do I here come and work and suffer and stay all this long time? Hopefully, it's not that long for you or anybody, as many as of us has been, and
Yep.
really drive through it and not get affected by it, because I got affected. I developed a lot of like pain in my mind
Yeah.
and
Anger. I
nights
mean, that's
without
really what it is.
sleeping and
Anger
anger.
and
And
frustration. Yeah.
so I'm happy, like I said, like I'm happy now. I know a colleague, a friend,
Yeah.
and you know, and I tell people who are listening to this, when he's saying about consulting, guys, like just listen to him. Like if you want to get that quote unquote peace of mind,
Right.
work with H1B guy here,
Yep.
because he is, you know, the times that we've spoken, it's like, dude, we know so much about it, and I'm actually helping him out on these projects, because I know I want to help, but I want to help you guys too. Like, and
Right.
again, there's a lot of uncertainty, and it's about education and about being aware where you are today and where you want to be. So just set up goals.
Right. And I think what draws me to you, Oscar, is just how genuine and passionate you are about making sure others don't make the same mistakes. And what's really interesting about you is we're talking about a PhD in biochemistry
Actually,
and
chemistry, but
but
yeah, it's okay.
a
I'm at,
PhD in chemistry. So when I look at the last two folks that I've had on this channel, right, for the Stamp It Out series, Christine and you. Christine is a Harvard graduate, okay, and you are a PhD in chemistry. Um, I will tell you that my business administration degree from Georgia Southern University holds no candle to either one of those. So the point that I'm making though is that you are not, Oscar, what people would call the cookie cutter H1B, right? You read about the statistics out there, which is 70% Indian, for H1Bs, and again, that's a large majority of what follows my channel, who subscribes to me, who reads my content. But I wanted to tell your story because your picture is different. It's painted with a different brush than a lot of others, and yet here you still had to go through a series of hurdles and hoops. But what I will tell you that I've learned from you is that you never gave up, and you continue to pursue every option that you had at your fingertips. You continued to research, and when you needed to, you picked up the phone and you made phone calls to people who can help you. And so, listen, I'm not an immigration attorney. I've said that multiple times, but I do love to help people. And at the end of the day, if I can help you in any way, whether it's through these series of videos or if someone's out there that needs to speak to me, I'd love to hear from you. And that's something that I think about you and your story, that if you could go back and say, hey, if I had someone that I could have bounced these ideas or these questions off of, right, would that have advanced my timeline? Right,
yeah.
because that's really what we're looking for, is how do I condense my timelines? The perm labor process is grueling for everyone, no matter whether you're from India or from Venezuela. It is a grind. When you're talking about employment-based preferences, it's a grind. And
Yeah, and it
so,
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter really. Like in like you're saying, you just nailed it in the head. It's just advance the timeline or even postpone the timeline, because all of us have different priorities. And I think it's a matter of, I'm coming to the U.S. What am I gonna get out of here? Am I gonna get that I need to stay here and I want to form my life here, and I want, knowing that, for example, you may be from India or you may be from China. Unfortunately, those are the two countries. You're from Philippines, because Philippines is another country that has that kind of backlog.
yeah,
Mexico is, but even so, whatever country you're coming from, do you come with that mentality like, okay, well, I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna stay because I don't want to go back to my home country?
right.
Okay,
Or
like
you have
now
nobody there for you, right? I mean,
and now you have to come and you have to take that pill and you have to absorb that and say, this is what I'm going to do. And you have to mindset on that, because
yeah,
nobody tells you this when you're graduating, when you're going to the embassy. Nobody tells you this. You're just going out there hoping, because you have to be positive, right? And that's how I live. That's why I'm so enthusiastic. I put 100% of my energy to doing these things. And I know, despite if I'm going to get, something's going to go wrong, at least, I know I'm going to try something else, and I'm going to try something else. But that's kind of where we're going here. So the fact that, for example, you can call H1B Guy and say, hey, you know what? This is my situation right now.
Yep.
Let me talk. You know, my lawyers are not getting me anything. Can you help me get some answers? You know, this is valuable because that investment or time investment you do up front, or you kind of look at this is important. I just tell this to my friends. I had a call from a customer of mine today. He's a friend. He's a customer from the company I'm working with, and then he called me. He's from Turkey. He says, Oscar, I need to get a job. I'm finishing my postdoc right now, and I don't want to go back to Turkey. And I told him, dude, go sponsor yourself. That's what I told him. You have a PhD. You're much more published than you. You probably get it. Go pay a lawyer that does this. And I gave him some names.
Get the NIW. Yeah.
Get the NIW. Giving you an EB1 because he has so many like references and stuff like that. I mean, just do it. Like, don't even waste your time with an employer. Well,
and
I don't know if
Turkey, there's no wait, right? I mean, when you're talking about adjustment status, yeah.
But I told him, I mean, if you want to do that, just do that. But if you don't want to, you can go the other route, which is the muscle route. Like, you gotta go to get your H1B, get the employer to do everything, and voila. But told him you have to be conscious that this is gonna be a long process, and you gotta eat that job and marry to that job and just eat the process. So he said, yeah, well, I'm gonna take a look at it. So.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your business. You know, I know you have a full-time employer and you have a full-time job that you work, 40, 50, 60 hours a week on. But I also know that you have some service offerings that you provide out and that you have a family business as well. I know that business growth, career consulting, and even some scientific consulting services. I know you have a retail design, family business as well. But I wanted to give you an opportunity, just, if people want to find out more about what it is that you do, where can they find you?
I mean, LinkedIn is my platform of choice. I mean, you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Oscar C if you want to see pictures of me playing with my dogs or just hanging out in the street and whatnot. But sometimes I used to, when it was normal to go to conferences, I would be at every conference just doing videos and highlighting what I'm giving a talk on a topic. I work in my field is analytical chemistry, very particular in analyzers, laboratory analyzers. For those of you maybe or may not be scientists here, I work on some very, very unique things. I work with like analysis of pesticides, drugs of abuse, like narcotics in urine, blood. Most of my true passion is all forensics and pesticide residue and contaminants. So I get a lot of people calling me all the time. Hey, we have a lab, or we want to open a lab. Can you help us set it up? Give us the right equipment. So that's kind of like the scientific consulting that I do. I look at productivities and all the what things mean. But also people have come and asked me, hey, we got an electronics business, like an online electronics business, and can you help us out, map out how to do it? How do we get more customers? So I do a lot of that too, and career advice all the time. I mean, career is probably what people call me the most for, especially a lot of international people asking me, like I told you, a buddy of mine in Turkey, he's like, what do I do? I mean, you know what to do. So I typically just give them an advice. So find me on LinkedIn.
I have your LinkedIn profile in the description of this video. I've also got your Twitter handle as well. I don't have.
Don't get offended by my tweets. But it's just sometimes I just rant out and I talk about my soccer team and how much. But it's okay.
Well, which brings me to a question that wasn't on our agenda, but you and I had this conversation, which is we agreed that Pulisic is the best American football player in the world. But we also agreed on something else, which is that Marcos Alonso is the best left back in the world as well, right?
Not now, but at Chelsea, the best left back right now in the world. Man, it's a tough one to say. I mean, Theo is doing great at Milan. Dude, I actually can't answer that. I don't know who's really performing. I haven't watched the Premiership recently. I've kind of zoned out. I don't like what Peacock did. I'm paying for ESPN Plus.
Yeah, we talked about it. I fortunately have the Peacock right now for free.
But did Chelsea play yesterday? Or they play today?
I can't remember. I haven't looked the last couple of days. Don't pull my fan card from me on that. But I wanted to just say, for those of you that are still on the live stream, if you would like this video, if you haven't already, I'm going to give one last call here for questions for Dr. Oscar Cabresis or myself. We've got a good list. I'm just going to go ahead and roll into those now. Just going to start from the top. But if you've got any questions that you want us to get through, go ahead and post those in the chat. So this was even before the stream got started. Oscar, Samir has been a huge supporter here of this channel. You know, I think he found me about a month or so ago and just has really done nothing but offer so much support and encouragement for me over the last month. And the irony in his support has been when the growth of this channel and platform is really occurred. So I don't know, Samir may be my good luck charm, Oscar. It's funny when people find you that all of a sudden create this kind of stuff. But here you go. Here's 2 thumbs up for us and a fist bump and a good morning here from Samir. I think it's afternoon here on the East Coast for us. You know, hey, this is for you, Oscar. It says, thanks for doing this so much. It means so much for us and our aging out kids, right? And
yeah,
that's one of the things that we needed to talk about, you know?
Yeah, that's important because I aged out. I was calling a victim that I aged out, but it was really not my fault or not my parents' fault. It's just the system, how it's structured. So I think Samir, thanks for that. I think it's important to have a plan. You know, you need to have a plan for your kids already. As they start to grow, like either enroll in the university or if they want to study abroad, if that's something that you feel and those kids, you know, that's a possibility, that's fine. There's nothing wrong in leaving the country and studying somewhere else. I can tell you because I've given lectures in other universities, and sometimes I'm like, man, you know, I'm like, better. Some universities are better. So, you know, you gotta be open, and it depends on where you're from too. Right. So that's unfortunately a factor. So nothing wrong with considering that. So
no. So this says, you guys rock. Folks in the audience share far and wide. Yeah, I mean, even, you know, now or after this thing, you know, goes into publication, which will probably be sometime early tomorrow. That's what you can do to help me and this platform and Oscar to get this word out, which is like, subscribe, share the link. I'll post it on Twitter tomorrow. Retweet, paste it. EV-Guy7 on Twitter is one of my biggest supporters. He's the video I did with Christine, our Stamp It Out. I think he's probably over 50 shares on that, and that's where she released probably the most riveting comment that you can, and the hair literally stands up on my arms, which is the worst way to come to America is on merit and skill. I mean, does that just not burn you?
It's burning. It's burning if you don't know ahead. So one thing, guys, get on the Telegram platform. Actually, that was a conversation I had.
Yeah, no, I have that
Telegram.
Too. Yeah,
you're gonna get updates because H1B Guy, he's really on the ball what's happening, and it's good to know. I mean, it's really, you know, you have a good, reliable portal. And for those of you who are waiting for a perm online, and I mean, I give you this tip too. I remember back in my time, there's like perm trackers online. Like some people just have built some programming that goes into the Department of Labor, checking every day what's coming out. You don't know, because I was just like, man, there was like 3 or 4 weeks back then, just making sure that my thing was approved, or if it was filed, it never got right. So
I'm glad you brought it up. I have created the H1B Guy group on Telegram. I'll put a link in the description. This was completely Oscar's idea. I'd not used Telegram before. I've only used WhatsApp, but Oscar felt like Telegram would give me a little bit more far-reaching globally. And we talked about kind of the intention behind the Telegram group. Of course, I'm going to be active on Twitter. I'll be active here. But Telegram is, the H1B Guy group on Telegram is meant to be a crowdsourced news and personal experience channel. And I am going to ask you about what content you want to see from me when I'm working on a couple different things. And I'm looking for you guys to share with me your opinion. If you've got a situation and you want to get some advice, I think we're 19, 20 members so far, but the link is in the description. If you're looking for it, it's t.me/dh1bguy. So Oscar, thanks for that idea. That was something I put out. We started Thanksgiving. I created the channel on the 25th. We're at 20. I am giving away a free consulting offer to the 50th subscriber on the Telegram channel. So please come join the conversation there. We'd just really appreciate it. Samir was talking about that's what I fear for my daughter. She is just 8 right now, came here when she was 2.5. She is so used to life here that it will be devastating. And I think that goes back to that comment where you were talking about your family was here, you had nobody anywhere else. And this right here is the fear that the DACA kids are living.
Yeah.
Right? They came here legally, not at their own choice, but legally on employment-based preferences, and are aging out. And
it's going to be a matter. Well, hopefully in the next she's 8, so she's got 13 years still to kind of like age out, right? Currently. Yeah. But it's a matter of programming the chip in the kid, right? Like almost like, okay, well, listen, if things don't happen, you may want to, you can stay here, you have to pay a premium for that, or go to, I don't want to say Canada only, but you can go to the UK, go to Germany, go to Australia. I mean, I think one thing we do forget, and this is probably, if I wasn't Venezuelan, I probably would have considered it, because I have a better country to rely on politically, or social, something structurally that
Well, your country quota cap is different, right?
There's no quota cap.
Yeah,
in Venezuela,
right.
There's no quota cap, but the problem is, it's like, I came from a country that's right now, if you see the news, it's just not good. I mean, it's
right.
just
your quality of life there versus here are two completely different.
There are no passports. There are no passports. Like, my passport will expire in 2 years, and I have no rights. There's no way to renew it. It's that messy.
Wow.
But you have some other people that are from other countries that have that. Well, you can rely and go into, like I said, you can say, well, maybe I'll go to New Zealand and work and study there for 4 years, and maybe I try to come back, maybe visit my parents. You never know. If moving outside sometimes is better. Sometimes some people work out,
well,
but some people.
It's funny you said Canada, because the comment right after that was, consider Canada ?
Of course, yeah. Because come on, she knows that I love Canada, and Canada is amazing. So I mean, like I said, you can consider anyhow, but I mean, it's matter of somebody that again is setting that priority. Where do I want to go? Where, do you want to be far? Do you want to be close? It is just we gotta go with a mind that this system is not really gonna change immediately. At least for us, that we've been doing it right for many years. So
Janet says we wrongly assume everyone wants to help us to become citizens, but that isn't the case.
Agreed. Yeah, it's just not. The system is not designed to help you. No, it's a deterrent system. It's like, you do wrong, you're out. That's why I'm saying, to be on a green card status, it's wonderful. I mean, you don't have to worry about this anymore, but now you have to worry about not trying to screw up, because you can lose that right and you can get kicked out. So
well, that's funny.
That's how I live today, I gotta watch out, and I have to be like careful.
Right. Well, and then you look at the America First faction, right, which is anti-immigrant across every sort of realm. And then, you've got to go back and ask the question, have you done an ancestry DNA? Unless you're 100% Native American, you are here because of immigrants, right? And I think that's the thing that, to me, kind of drives me crazy a little bit with it. I get some of the extreme, but at the end of the day, we're all immigrants, or descendants of immigrants.
I mean, we're all, and I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Samir says our plan is to wait until she turns 10. That's if I'm going to call it off and move. Then it's either India or Netherlands, as my company has office there. Unless something changes by then.
It's not. Listen, it's not a bad idea at all. In fact, Holland is a great country to live. I mean, different lifestyle, of course. I've been in America here for a long time, and I've worked in Europe. And again, it's not a bad idea. I think at this point, I'm not trying to sound discouraging. It's just it's the way it is. It's just that's how the system is written.
It is.
It's like, unfortunately, the backlog is so long that it's stupid, So, but keeping an open mind that, hey, it's not like it's so amazing here. Yeah, it is amazing. It's wonderful. Everything works. It's just some things, like there's a world out there, and it's not that bad. Like that's
Yeah.
one thing I've learned. Like, I'm gonna be here for as long as I can, and my goal is to become a citizen. That's my personal goal. Like I want to do that, so I have the freedom to, if I say I want to move to Italy or move down to Brazil, or
Yeah,
in
you
the
can
future,
get
I
back
can
into
come
the
back
country.
here. I
Yeah.
can come back. To me, that's my goal. Like that's me. But some other people may have another goal. So it's really putting it into perspective.
Yeah.
Because
Samir also said he was lucky enough, and that his employer, he loves them for this. They did it at the moment he completed his 6 months in the firm. That's talking about the perm labor. We were talking about condensing that process. And I've always said, if you have an employer who understands your situation and understands the value that you provide to their organization, then you're in the driver's seat. It's just time that is your enemy, really. And how long you're willing to continue to work for that employer until the time flips itself on your side.
Exactly. And I've seen some more, and I've seen some people that, for example, this happened with a colleague of mine in another company that, he was Indian, and he they waited his daughter also aged out. But what they did is that he saved up all the money through she was about to age out, and they moved to Europe. They're living in the UK. He's pretty much retired because he made so much money. He's doing the same job over there, and so that's fine. At least I completed my mission here, like which was brought. I brought her up here. She's in school. She's got everything. We got money. So it's almost like I said. It's just priorities. Priorities is like, I guess, the main message I've been trying to drive across.
Yeah.
You want to come here for 6 years? You want to come here for 3, or do you want to go and muscle it through? And it's different for everybody. So,
Christine said that Janet was exactly right on the move to, or the folks don't want to help you become citizens. It's just not the case. So here you go. This is from Daniel DiMartino. Great to hear your experience, Oscar. I'm a Venezuelan as well, and doing a PhD in the U.S.
Wonderful.
From one Venezuelan PhD to another. He also has a question. We'll get to that here. I'm gonna jump right to it and then come back to a question.
Let's jump to that.
Me. So he says, hey, did you publish in peer-reviewed journals before applying for an NIW, Oscar?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I published like 2 papers. I mean, it was so it's interesting. My advisor, my research advisor at USC, was kind of slow. He's actually retiring next year. So it was like it was a pain. But if you have a good advisor and you have a good team and you can get as polished as possible, that's very important. I mean, the most important is you get your stuff out there in journals. That helped. That certainly helped. And then, of course, people make references of your papers, and that creates an important. Of course, that's why I tell people who are really published, like, man, you have like 100, 200, or sometimes 2,000 citations. You're a god in whatever science, because everybody refers to you, so you're subject matter expert.
Well, and here's what it is too, Oscar. It's evidence.
Yeah, and in that, all that gets put into the case, right? All of that gets put in. The lawyer puts all of that things for you up front. I have a cousin who's Venezuelan who, he lives in Seattle. He's a chemical engineer, and he did that. I mean, he just had he created some reactor. He actually had a patent on it. So he did the same. Because his employer was holding him, I'm like, go ahead and do this. And yeah, boom, 6 months too, like, proof. So for us, we have PhDs. But again, I don't think it's every PhD either. I think you have to have very certain things. I think the life sciences is really where it's at. But I don't know. That was years ago. Hopefully, it's still.
Yeah, I think the point is that with the PhD, right, there's certain doors that could possibly be open for you, making sure that you've been published, you've written a fair amount of papers, you've done a lot of documented research that's referred to by others, right? And the last point that I'll make on this is, before applying for the NIW, you definitely need to consult with your own immigration attorney, not your employers.
Exactly, because that's what I did. I hired my own attorney, and I'm telling you, go, and that's probably the best money you're gonna put down, because that is something you have control of.
Yeah.
Not your employer has in control of their stuff, and your. I remember when I transferred to this other company, I had an email in bold letters saying, "This lawyer represents this company, doesn't represent you," in big bold letters.
Mm.
So immediately that just takes away all your rights. So
Yeah. If you
what?
can't read the bold letters, then you're in real trouble.
Yeah, well, I read the little letters and the bold letters.
Yeah. So Sanjay is asking me, I'm graduating with a master's in May of 2021 and will be looking for a job in IT. Can you briefly describe what to expect with the new rules? Thank you. So I'm assuming that he's referring to the OPT. There was some news, and I'm going to plan to cover that on Friday around the Department of Justice, Department of Labor, I believe, that was covering kind of the OPT F1, changing from F1 to OPT and what that adjustment of status looks like. I'm assuming that that's what Sanjay's referring to. I'm going to be covering that on Friday, but it looks like there's definitely some further scrutiny that's being put on the OPT, EAD specifically. If Sanjay, if you're referring to the H1B lottery, which there was a memo, a notice that was posted, proposed to reform, where they talked about changing from a true lottery to actually wage selection. So if that's what you're asking about, it looks like that is currently in the comments phase. And ultimately, that could have an impact on the 2022 fiscal year lottery. And my understanding is that the way I read it, and I'm interpreting it, it's going to be H1B will go to the highest paid. So I'll definitely be monitoring and putting more out on the OPT EAD if that's what you're asking about. But from a wage perspective, I fully expect that the lottery will be based on wage versus random selection for fiscal year 2022.
So my advice to Sanjay for this, okay,
Yes.
is number one, start connecting with people, okay, on network and say, hey, looking for a job, get your name out there, okay, because the sooner you have that offer, the better. Because ideally, when you submit your OPT application, if you have an offer letter, so I think, well, I don't know, man. Back in my time, they took 2.5 months to process an OPT. I'm assuming it's now even more, of
Yeah,
course.
60 to 90 days, and you've got to have the card in hand, the AD
Yeah,
card in hand
yeah,
before
because
you
you
can
can't
begin
work.
working.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying it's like the sooner you do, the better. Because if you can secure an offer and you can start, like, okay, you already have that ahead of time, man, that puts you ahead. So the moment you get the card, you're not looking for the job and wasting those days. And the
Mm-hmm.
other thing I recommend you, see, like I said before, think about, do you want to come here and stay here forever? That's your goal, or do you say, well, knowing, I don't know where your country is from, I don't want to make any assumptions, but you got to get ready for, like, okay, I'm here for 10 years, I'm here for 15 years, I'm here for 6 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Put that in your mind, see where that, because that will help you figure out a path forward without pain.
Yeah.
Because you don't want
Do you want to work
anything.
36 months under OPT and OPT STEM, and or is the long goal, the cycle, which is OPT STEM, H1 green card backlog,
Exactly. Okay,
and
what do you want?
continuing H1B extensions residually into the foreseeable future. So Suresh asked, my son's 16, H4. My priority date is May 15. India, I'm assuming that's an EB2 category that he's talking about. I don't think any miracle going to happen soon. What should I do in my scenario? Oscar, what would you do?
What would I do? Well, that's a tough one. Your kid's 16, so you got about 3 years of high school. So two things. And this is the same thing I told Sanjay. Do you need to stay here? This is it. This is end of the road for you, and I'm gonna stay here forever. Well, if that is the answer, then start planning for your kid to become an international student. I think that is the most educated, or given the age, probably can go to what's it called, a community college. Take advantage, because with H4 you can take the advantage of paying in-state tuition. That's a big thing. So whatever you are, whether it's California, whatever, maybe that you can arrange and get an associate's degree at least in the fastest time possible before that time runs out, and then make some plans of maybe getting an F1 and completing a degree somewhere else, so it's a little bit cheaper. It's a high premium, or go outside of the country. I mean, it's like that. And for yourself, well, like I said, what do you want to do? You really want to stay here, and just go through it and wait until that backlog, or wait until you can retire. I don't know. I mean, again, it's a personal thing, but that would be me. That would be my priority right now. It's like I want to get as much education, as much as high education as cheap as possible. Like in-state tuition, it is a big benefit, because man, I remember paying like $6,000 a semester. It was not fun. It was not, for at least for my parents, it was not good. So.
Well, I think if I do some math here, right, it's on 16, 5 years, you're looking at 2025 roughly. Priority date is May 2015 in EB2. I think he's going to be one of these that's going to be like right close on the number. If there is, I'm still hearing rumblings of more rapid forward movement, although I've joked about rapid forward movement as a farce. I'm still hearing it. The chatter is still out there. So, I think right now I would sit tight, Suresh. At least let your son graduate high school. Consider going to a college for a couple of years. And then if you need to begin the F1 process and he wants to stay here, I mean, that to me at least gets you 5 more years from where you are right now. That doesn't necessarily get you, an EAD with advanced parole, or, him under DACA, but hopefully in 5 years, there may be some reform around that. So,
but at least if he can go to school, and get an associate's, that's already a big thing, because even with an associate's, he's entitled to an OPT.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, you gotta make sure the kid graduates quick. Yeah. Well, high school will be 18, but from high school immediately into college, like don't waste any time. Just get that going. Get those 60 credits out. That would be my guess.
So Janet says they're going after legal immigration because they can't do anything about illegal immigration. They're going to have to give them all citizenship, or at least a green card, in my opinion. I wanted to say really quickly, Janet, thank you for joining us here today, because you have been spewing a lot of truth in your 2 posts here in the chat. And also to Daniel, your fellow Venezuelan, for joining us here. I saw Daniel just followed me on Twitter, so thank you for that. And follow me on YouTube if you're not already. Janet, same for you. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, she's exactly right. This is what we were talking about here, Oscar, in terms of the legal immigration, it seems to be the target,
Oh yeah, I mean, they can't do anything about it. They just want to make it. They want to make it more difficult. That's why I disagree with the current administration. I'm sorry. I don't agree that you got to make it more difficult with people, that come here and they're coming to contribute to the economy. They're paying to stay here. They're paying a lot of money to stay here, and you still tell them no. I mean, that's unfair. Like, it is just the way it is. So. I hope the next administration will have, and I do see it will have more flexibility, and had this administration stayed, well, yeah, it would have probably been worse. Not that I wish that, but you know what, things are happening for a reason. So
that's right. So Suresh had mentioned that the aging out. He was talking. Samir was talking to Suresh, saying that's his biggest worry, and sorry to hear that. But even I feel it's not going to happen for us anytime soon, because it seems coming legally and paying taxes doesn't matter here, Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about that, right? A good bit.
Yeah, I mean, you pay, that's it.
So Rohan asks, how soon do I think the DOL will revert to old wages? Well, I would have to think, the judge ruled late Monday, reported yesterday. They're going to have to, by the beginning of next week, begin accepting those old wages. The thing that I do want to warn everyone on here, though, is I am not so sure that this wage rule and the narrowing of the specialty occupation definition is dead and gone. We may see some sort of adjustment to it. I think what happened is that there was a significant overreaching in the administration. the current administration, I think you could see something because there was a lot of popularity behind the wage rule and the narrowing of the definition of the specialty occupation. But Rohan, to answer your question, I mean, I think that goes back to Monday, right? December 7th is when that was supposed to be in law. So it's been temporarily locked and ruled favorably of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Samir had a comment for you here. Said, thank you so much, Dr. Oscar, for your kind support. He's referring to the S386 support, which is, something that they've all been very vocal on. So Samir said he'll defer to what the H1B guy says, but I was attending Greg Siskin the other day, the attorney who won the case, and he said it's a matter of 6 to 7 days unless DOL has bad intentions to delay it. Also, you could use older wage level, but depends on your lawyer's opinion. And then, Rohan said, thanks, Samir. So this is the kind of stuff, this back and forth between Samir and Rohan and Suresh that we're looking to create here on this platform on the H1B Guy Telegram channel. So, crowdsourcing is really, to me, the most important thing. The concept of the hive mind, right? We are stronger in our numbers. So good day to you. Aroma's awake. If that's referring to coffee, I definitely am a big fan of coffee. So here we go. Rohan says, Oscar, what do you think? Best left back is Andy Robertson of Liverpool. I don't know. He's pretty good, though. That Liverpool team
I just give you my thumbs up because I have one of my best friends is a Liverpool fan.
It's
actually pretty good. He's awesome.
They're pretty good, aren't they? Yeah. Thank you so much for your words, but it's people like you and Oscar who raise the concern in the right way. Yeah, that was when I was being my good luck charm. So I've heard people bad-mouthing DACA and then supporting DACA, but I don't feel so. I feel both are important. Both are kids when they came here. And I think, that's the key, right, is that they came here very much not on their own choice. And so that's where, to me,
the parents' choice. You want the best for the kid. We feel
illegally or legally, right? It wasn't by their own choice. So, so Jay Gotham says, "Are we soft targets?" I think the answer is a little bit yes, and here's why I say a little bit yes. The reason why I think that you are is because it's the cycle, right? And when you look at the cycle as it relates to Indians working under H1B, only more recently have you seen a very loud, vocal community begin to form. Up until the last year or two, there really wasn't a lot of groups out there. I mean, you've got Immigration Voice, you've got the ME Forum, you've got the Green Card Coalition backlog or Green Card Backlog Coalition that's out there. So you're seeing a lot of power in numbers. And if we really want to influence what type of legislation is going to come down in 2021 and 2022, you've got to have power in numbers. And so in order to not be a soft target, Jay, it takes two things: a lot of money and a lot of numbers. You have those two things, then you're no longer a soft target. And that's a unity in those two things.
I agree.
So, Suresh, just thank you very much, Oscar and H1B Guy. Glad we could answer your question, our opinion, whether it's right or wrong. So, Rohan says, thank you so much to both of us. Very useful platform I've set up here. Thank you, Rohan, for joining the live stream. I can't do it without your support. And you can do that through liking, sharing, and subscribing, and letting your friends know about this channel and this platform. Jay says, great job, both of you. Thank you. And then shout out to the H1B guy. I'd like to remind you, making such content, getting all the details, editing takes an amount of effort and money.
get Samir an H1B T-shirt. You know,
Yeah, maybe that's what's next. Teespring or something. I don't know. I need a catchy slogan.
swag.
Although I guess your global source for all things H1B is pretty
It
good.
is.
You know.
It is.
So, Samir, thank you. You know, he's produced a show in the past, and again, you know, as I said, he's kind of become my good luck charm. And then the last thing, please continue to support this channel so that I can continue to do this. Yes. No one has been more surprised by the growth of this channel than my wife, and I am continuing to show her results. And when the
Doing
boss
it.
lady of the house is happy, it makes the H1B guy happy, and I can continue to run this mouth
Happy
right
wife,
here.
happy life, man.
That's
Happy
right.
wife, happy life. That's a way to roll. So.
Yep. So anyway, that's all we've got on the Q&A here. You know, I just wanted to remind everyone to come join us on the Telegram group, the H1B Guy group on Telegram. Dr. Oscar Cabresis is already on there. Samir's on there. My good friend Magna is on there. Here you go, Oscar. Maybe this is it. Jay, the H1B Guy merchandise. I mean, I don't know. We got to think about it. I need something that's breathable material because I'm a sweater, right? Maybe we go masks or something. I don't know. But again, join us on the Telegram group. Appreciate everyone who has taken the time to join us here. I'll tell you, this 90 minutes went by really fast, Oscar. I don't know about you, but
Yeah. I can't beat your what, almost 2 hours with Christine, but certainly an hour and a half.
Listen, when
did well.
I'll tell you, you know, these things have a way of evolving. You know, this time here today just flew by. I just thank you so much for coming on this channel, the H1B Guy Live, Stamp It Out 5, telling your story, being a proponent for employment-based immigration, for family-based preferences, but overall a proponent for being a better country, right? Because that's really what it is. It's about America, the melting pot, and the fact that you and I get to chop it up here for an hour and a half and talk about immigration and telling your story and what we can do to make things better. So no video tomorrow. I've got some things that I've got to work on tonight and a busy schedule for me personally tomorrow. But I will be back on Friday with the H1B Guy news for the week ending December 4th, 2020. I have a very special announcement that I'm going to be making on that video. So check back Friday afternoon for the H1B Guy news for this week. I'm just going to ask you again, if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, click the bell for notifications. Oscar, any closing comments from you?
The only thing is say thank you for inviting me here. Now you know you can connect with me, connect with us online. Like I said, I'm any doubts, any questions. So that's why I'm here. I just I have your mindset ready for this, and you'll be successful regardless.
That's absolutely
whatever
right.
You decide, it's gonna be a success. So that's it.
And I'll include your Twitter handle and your LinkedIn profile or in the descriptions. Connect, follow. But before we wrap up, yesterday was a huge milestone here on this channel. I crossed over 500 subscribers, over 2,000 hours of watch time. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for your support. I am just so humbled by it, and crossed over 900 followers on Twitter, and we're just going to keep going. We're on our way to 1,000 here on YouTube. I'm not going to stop talking. We're going to continue to promote merit-based system and try to create mutual beneficial reform for everybody. With that being said, Oscar, one last thank you. Thank you to all of you who've made it this far. The H1B Guy, your global source for all things